Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and this time I do a review for Friday the 13th Part 2. The body count continues. And Friday the 13th Part 2, again, I know this is from the box set, but the deluxe edition of this movie is bullshit. I'm not buying it because it has features that have nothing to do with the movie. The features on the deluxe edition of Part 2, they talk about the first movie, which I don't really understand. Why could you not get a commentary with like Amy Steele, Steve Miner, who directed this film, same guy who directed House, Lake Placid, Halloween H2O, Day of the Dead remake. He can do a commentary for the Day of the Dead remake, but he can't do anything for this one or Part 3, which he directed Friday the 13th Part 3 as well. I'm sure Amy Steele would have done a commentary. Just stupid of them. That's why in Paramount, they think they always fuck things up with this series. Always. Always, always, always. But, like I said, Friday the 13th was a big hit, so of course the next year, 1981, you had this film. And story-wise, it's pretty much same stuff, different day, only Adrian Keene's character gets killed at the beginning. I know people are like, well, how did he get there? He walked. He don't give a shit. He walked to the fucking thing. People say that he probably saw her kill her mom. That means he waited in the fucking bushes. He followed Adrian Keene to the hospital, probably. Watched where she lived, waited for the right opportunity, went up and killed her. After putting the head in her fridge and ice pick whatever in her head. And it takes place a few years later, and you have a new group of camp counselors at Crystal Lake. And, I mean, granted, it was sad to see Adrian Keene get killed. I think the only reason I dealt with this is because it has my favorite actress of the series, Amy Steele. I really liked her as Ginny. And like I said, it's a new group of camp counselors, and you have the character of Paul. Really, actor played by John Fury. Great way of telling a campfire story, and that's probably one of the best instances when someone tells a campfire story about the legend. I think he told it very well. It was really nicely done. Yeah, very well done, the way they had it. Maybe he has the right voice for it, maybe just what they put into his mouth, the exact words he said, but I don't know, just that campfire story always was kind of like, okay, that's a good way of telling it, a good way of selling a legend, so to speak. But in this, when people get killed one by one, Crazy Ralph from the first film, Walt Goring, he gets killed, that's like barbed wire, whatever, around his neck. You have this officer who sees something run. Kind of reminds me of, in the same year, Halloween 2 came out, and it's an officer type that gets a claw hammer to the head, while this one's like the back of the head, and Halloween 2 is like to the front of the head. It's kind of weird. You see, able to hang someone and slit his throat. You get the idea like this, a couple looks, and you get the idea that they find this dog that's dead. Probably the most famous ones, you have this poor guy in a wheelchair who I feel sorry for, but he's in a wheelchair, and then Jason, this is pretty ballsy, just takes his machete, boom, right in the guy's head, and then in the wheelchair just rolls back down the stairs. Probably one of the eye-opening kills of the franchise. Like, wow, you actually kill a guy in a fucking wheelchair. It's like, if you think about it, in Part 3, he killed a pregnant girl. That girl, Debbie, who's in the hammock and gets the knife or whatever through her chest, that character is pregnant. You watch the film again, you listen, it's true. The one who's looking through the Fangoria and gets killed there. So Jason doesn't fuck around. But, dude, I don't know, there's really good effect. Tom Savini didn't come back, he only came back to do the effects on Part 4. from part 1 and part 4. But whoever did the effects did a really great job. I mean, that just the idea you don't kill a guy in a wheelchair who can't even have, he's not even able to have sex with this woman who kind of has a hots for him. It's kind of shitty, but you felt sorry for the guy, at least I did. And what's funny is that you have some people, like you have sort of a practical Joker type of guy, and they go to town, and some of them don't come back, they stay there, and they survive. Even the practical Joker guy, he survives. Right up there at the bar. And then you have Ginny, the Amy Steele's character. I just really like Amy Steele as an actress. I really liked her in April Fool's Day, the original. And I really liked her in this film. It's just, she was strong, beautiful, but has a normal beauty to her. It doesn't look fake or phony. And I don't know, she just has a sort of kind of like a girl next door, but a strong version of that. Always just been my favorite actress. One of my favorite actresses and my favorite actress of the Friday the 13th films. Just has a certain strength to her. When she's fighting with Jason and you know all the weapons she tries, like this version here with the pitchfork, and being attacked by Jason, her fighting back. I don't know, really made you feel for her, and then getting the idea she puts on the sweater, pretends to be Jason's mom, and gives him pause. And of course Jason, the introduction of Jason Voorhees, where he has the bag over his head. Granted, I'm more of a fan of the hockey mask, which came in part 3. But the burlap sack has a creepy vibe to it, sort of the Town That Dreaded Sundown type of vibe. For those who don't know, the Town That Dreaded Sundown, definitely check that out, based on a true story of stuff in Texas. But has that look to him, kind of a creepy look for a character. Kills, some pretty good kills. Like I said, the guy in the wheelchair, you have a couple having sex and puts a spear through both of them at the same time. Kind of a take on another film. I'm not sure if it's called Twitch of the Death Nerve, or one of those movies. They kind of took one or two kills from one of those movies. I'm not sure if that was the name of it though. But still a good kill. And in fact, the girl who just killed with the spear, her brother, that character comes back in part 4 to look for her killer. And you get like a girl just knifed in the stomach, and a decent body count. Decent body count. Better than the first one? I don't know. I mean, I think just as good. I mean, each one have their moments. The one moment that really, like the arrow in the neck in part 1. This was probably the machete in part 2. And part 3 is definitely the guy walking on his hands and fucking gets his nuts to neck, boom, which I'll get to in part 3. But this is a lot of fun, entertaining film. I like this one a little bit more than the first one. I still like the first. I like this one a little bit more though, because Jason Voorhees with the burlap sack I buy more as a killer than Betsy Palmer. It didn't have the mystery that at the end go, well, it's kind of unfair mystery. Plus, I like Adrienne Keene, but I do like Amy Steele more because she's my favorite. I think the fuck up they have is the ending. Because I know, like, well, okay, for instance, before I get to that, the guy who played Jason is actually this guy named Steve Dash, who's quite a New Yorker. And basically at the end is, well, first off, she accidentally hit the guy, like the guys have the pickaxe, and she hits it and misses and hit his finger and fucked it up bad, and he had to go to the hospital in this gear. So he goes in the hospital and has the fake, stuff all over him. So they were pretty horrified at the hospital. But she's able to stop Jason, puts the machete, boom, right in the shoulder, like to here. Goes with this other guy who's kind of her boyfriend, Paul, John Fury's character. And one thing leads to another, and he gets her to there, and he heads out. They're wondering what's going on. Like, I think he answers the door, and there's the dog. The dog that's like, wait a minute, I thought that dog was dead. I thought they found that dog earlier. And then Jason pops out the window and grabs Amy Steele's character, sort of their take on the ending of the first film. And then she wakes up, and she's calling for Paul. And that's what I mean by the fuck up. I'll talk about the other thing later, but the fuck up is, what was real? Because at the beginning of part 3, you find Jason on the floor with the machete in his shoulder, crawling away. But the writer, I guess, said, well, the point is, when Jason jumped out the window and grabbed Ginny, that was real. But you don't know what happened to Paul, or you think Paul's dead, or... But that doesn't make any sense, because if that was real, why would Jason let her live? He would have killed her, not just, oh, she's going to live long enough for the people to get there in the hospital. That doesn't make any sense at all. So I guess he jumped out, grabbed her, and it was a dream, and then she wakes up. And she called for Paul, and you never find out what happened to Paul, John Pierce's character. Even in the third film, they said this many people died, and you add it up, Paul isn't among them. So I always thought it was very stupid that the way they did that ending was very dumb. Like, what happened to Paul? What happened to John Pierce's character? What the fuck happened? He disappeared? You don't know. He jumped out, it was a dream, and then she wakes up, and that's how it was, but then Paul disappeared. It's just really stupid the way they did that. But anyway, the story is that Jason Voorhees is really played by Steve Dash, except for that one scene when Jason jumps through the window to grab Amy Steele and he's unmasked. That's played by a guy named Warrington Gillette. But Warrington Gillette only did that one scene. So for years on, he would tell everybody that he was Jason. He wouldn't, of course, say that it was just for that one scene. Just that he was Jason. And then I guess one time at a convention, kid got one autograph, went to another and said, wait a minute, if you say you play Jason, who's that guy? And Steve Dash confronted Warrington Gillette, and Steve Dash is like a New Yorker. He's like, what the fuck are you doing inside my picture? I play the fucking character. You're not supposed to sign the fucking shit. This is my pictures. You don't sign your fucking name on it. It's my fucking... I played fucking Jason. Okay, I fucking played him. You went through a fucking window and failed. They had to swing your fucking ass in. Don't be signing my fucking picture when you know I played fucking Jason for most of the fucking time. So what the fuck are you doing? Like, basically... And Warrington Gillette was like, blah, 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 blah. I guess maybe I had amnesia from a ski trip. And that's what's sad. Steve Dash didn't really get a lot of credit until later on. Which I'm like, that's... Thankfully now he is. But it just took him forever. Like, he got on that His Name Was Jason DVD. But, I think after that, Warrington Gillette, now we don't want to book him anymore. Because he would go to come, oh, I play Jason. Yeah, for one scene. So. That and the ending are probably, the two stories that came out of the film. But that's my only problem with the film, is the ending. What happened to Paul, but other than that, you had good kills. The killer I buy more than the first film. I buy a crazy guy in a burlap sack than sweet old Betsy Palmer. But I still like the first one. It's a classic. But I do like the second one more. Amy Steele is great. Still have the solid score by Harry Manfredini. It's entertaining. Great kills of the guy in the wheelchair. And overall, it's just a solid sequel. It's a fun sequel. It's entertaining. So I don't know what else I can go with this review, but Friday the 13th Part 2, it's a very fun sequel. I think guys get shortchanged. Like, not a lot of people talk about Friday the 13th Part 2. They talk about 3 with the 3D, 4 with Thomas Vian's effects, and Corey Feldman. But part 2 is a really solid entry, in my opinion. But either way, thanks for watching. Take care and stay tuned for 3D, which it's not 3D now, but was. But well, either way, talk to you later, and we'll see you later. Ciao.